How's it going, vaqueros? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys have been enjoying Season 4 Reloaded. I am here today to talk to you about the new shotgun, the MX Guardian. This is the newest shotgun in the game that we've gotten since, well, Broadside, really, and we know that made a reputation for itself. And now this one, the MX Guardian, is starting to also do that, but in my opinion, it's for all the wrong reasons. So today, I'm going to share with you guys some of the basic stats I was able to find through testing this in Plunder, and share with my thoughts on some of the builds, what are things that you should run. I'm not going to talk about slugs yet. That'll be its own video. This is going to be talking about Dragon's Breath, and then of course the different fire modes we have, which is semi, full auto, and burst. So if you're down for that and some nerdy stuff, let's go ahead and just get into it. Just as a notice before I get started though, I do want to point out these are all hand tested. We don't have access to sim.gg yet, or at least the new update information on sim.gg yet, but that's coming soon, I am sure. But these are all hand tested, and I didn't want to go super in depth because we'll be getting those super in depth stats from sim. I didn't want to bother just wasting my time doing that. But I did get a lot of good basic information like time to kill, some ranges, all that good stuff. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So starting with the basic stats and the damage and the ranges, this gun up close and personal deals about 64 damage per shot. That means it's basically going to take 5 shots to kill at point blank. It doesn't matter if it's headshots or not, it's going to be a 5-shot kill. And keep in mind, this thing only has 15 rounds in total, or 15 shells I should say. Now this max damage range extends out to about 3.5 meters. So from 0 to 3.5 meters, it's going to take 5 shots to kill. This is your best case scenario. Up close and personal with a shotgun does the most damage, and it does 64 damage per shot. Now the rate of fire is really the kicker here, and the rate of fire for this thing is at about 426 rounds per minute. That number is courtesy of the exclusive ace, so big shout out to him for getting it to me. So if we couple that with the fact that it takes 5 shots to kill, we can get our theoretical time to kill. Now that ends up being about 562 milliseconds at point blank ranges. You might be thinking to yourself, that's really not that fast, and you'd be thinking right, because this is actually slower than the KV Broadside currently killing at 476 milliseconds. So the KV Broadside is nearly 100 milliseconds faster up close in its max damage range than this gun that shoots this crazy fast. So do with that information what you will, but that's just something important to know. Of course, this gun is full auto, and to me, that's the whole appeal about it. It makes it a lot easier to use than any other shotgun because it's just spray and pray. I mean, this is the definition of a spray and pray shotgun, and luckily it balances out by not being super overwhelming up close because it does have a relatively balanced time to kill up close, even up close like point blank headshots, and it balances out by being super weak at ranges. Like we're talking maybe past 5 meters, it's going to take a whole second nearly just to kill someone. So that kind of balances out in my opinion. Now we do have other types of fire modes that we can use this thing in, and that is semi-auto and burst fire. So first I'll go over semi-auto since we just went over full auto. Now semi-auto changes the damage and the ranges a little bit. In semi-auto mode, you deal about 84 damage point blank up close, which means up close and personal, it'll take you 4 shots to kill. Now, the rate of fire is also adjusted, and it does shoot faster than the KV Broadside, and the rate of fire for that is sitting at around 315 milliseconds. That's a hand-tested value, just keep that in mind. So if we calculate that time to kill for 4 shots up close, it's going to take about 571 milliseconds. That is actually slower than the initial 5-shot with the full auto version. Keep in mind that it is hand-tested, it might be a little off, but it generally does kill, in fact, slower than the full auto one. Now, the big drive for semi-auto, though, is it carries more damage over range. So from about 0 to 3.3 meters, that's your 4-shot range. From about 3.3 out to about 7.5, it's going to take 5 shots. And then from 7.5 to about 11-ish, even maybe past that, depending if you hit your shots well, it's going to take about 6 shots. So that time to kill, again, it kind of balances out, but in every range, it seems to kill slower than the full auto version. So just keep that in mind. It is spammy and it is nice to use and it does feel strong, but I can't help but say that the full auto version is probably the better one of these two just because it kills faster and it is easier to use, to be honest. So now that we've talked about semi and full, let's talk about the most unique one, which is burst fire. This turns your shotgun into a 2-shot burst, a 2-round burst with a little bit of a space in between, but it actually shoots relatively fast and the time between bursts isn't really that bad. So up close and personal, 1 burst, meaning 2 shots, just, you know, doof doof, that is basically going to deal 160 damage up close and personal. So out from about 0 to 5.1 meters or so, it's going to take 2 bursts to kill. Now from about that 5 meter mark out to about 10, it's going to take about 3 bursts if you're aiming well. Of course, there's a little bit of recoil, so it might take you another shot or two just if you can't really aim, or if you're kind of hip firing and your pellets don't really hit. So just keep that in mind. And past 10, it seems like it's taking 4 bursts relatively. So on paper, this one doesn't really seem to be the strongest. The time to kill doesn't seem to be that far off from the semi-auto version from what I can tell. But the real secret about the burst mode is that you can actually equip Dragon's Breath with it. Now, fun note that you cannot equip Dragon's Breath on this shotgun unless you have the burst mode enabled. That's a very smart call from the devs, because imagine this thing being full auto with Dragon's Breath. Not that it would be strong, but it would blind people to no ends, and to me, it's really obnoxious with how the flames work, especially on the broadside. Being full auto and having Dragon's Breath would be funny, but it would be incredibly annoying because you just can't see with it when you're getting shot at by it. So if you want to use Dragon's Breath, you have to use the burst mode attachment. Just keep that in mind. Now with Dragon's Breath, one burst was taking anywhere from 170 to about 188 points of damage with the burn. So that is dealing more damage than any other versions of this gun except for slugs. Now from 0 to 7.4 meters, I was getting 2-shot kills, or meaning 2 bursts with this thing, and it's usually the burn that kills them. Now it was an insta-kill, like 2-shot insta-kill out to about 2.5 to 3 meters. So it was like doof, 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 and they were dead. But out to about 7.5, it was 2 bursts and then a little bit of a delay, and then the burn kills them. But of course, no one waits for the delay. You're going to take a 3rd shot to kill. Now out to about 13 meters, or even further than that, as far as I can tell, it seems to work, and you get a 3 burst kill as long as you were hitting your pellets very well. And to me, this felt like a really hard hitting option that this gun had. I felt like this was probably the most fun I've had with this shotgun, was using the burst and Dragon's Breath, and it hits pretty damn hard. So this is definitely one I recommend checking out if you haven't yet. So I wanted to share with you guys 3 builds for each of the different fire modes. This is the one I've been using for the full auto version. Now the way I'm kitting it out here is for range, and I am also focusing on hip fire accuracy. Now this barrel gives you roughly 30 to 40% more range from what I can tell, and it is a very strong choice. This is definitely a very highly recommended barrel simply because it gives you so much range, and it's very, very nice. Now the SAX-50, we're not going to be really aiming down sights, so it doesn't matter how slow it makes it. This is going to be for extra damage range, of course, which is probably another 15 to 20%, which is again very strong. It's really going to help. Now when it comes to the tunings for these attachments, the Point G3P I'm using for hip spread. You don't really have to tune anything else. That's really the important one. The Bruin Warrior Grip I use because I tune it for hip fire accuracy, and this one really keeps your hip fire nice and tight when you move around. This one seems to be one of the best grips for that, so I recommend that one. And then of course we're using the Stream SK. Well, not of course, you haven't really seen this before, which is going to help with our sprint to fire aim down sight speed. Now when we go on to the next build, this is going to be for semi-auto. This is sort of your close range marksman rifle slash, I don't know, KV broadside build, right? For this one, I'm using the Bryson choke to get a nice tight pellet spread, and we can tune that, min-max it right around there, and give it some more damage range. Then we're using, again, the Hype LM barrel, which is very nice. Then I use the other attachments that are going to help with sprint to fire speed, sprint speed, and aim down sight speed. It's going to make you very mobile. Now, I do want to point out there is one magazine attachment you can use, but in my opinion, it doesn't really seem worth it compared to the other grips because it doesn't seem to help sprint to fire speed as much from what I can tell, so keep that in mind. Next, we're going to check out my favorite personally, which is the Burst Dragon's Breath build. This one I have been having such a good time with, and it's very strong, guys. I'm telling you, this might be one of the better ways to run it. I could be wrong, but when sim.gg comes out with all the more in-depth stats, then you'll know for sure, but this one, do not sleep on it. So again, we're going to use the same build that we had before, except that we're using basically the burst fire trigger, and we're adding Dragon's Breath instead of a stock. So let me know what you guys think of those builds. Now for the fun part, my opinion on this. I know I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I've already seen a lot of complaints about the gun, and I'm sure a lot of you people want to know, do I think it's overpowered? To be honest, no. And I hope you guys know that I don't come from some weird shotgun bias. I like pump actions and double barrels. I typically like the heavy hitter ones. I don't normally like the spray and pray ones as much. I don't enjoy them as much in the playstyle they kind of have when you use them, so I much prefer those. But this one has been a lot of fun, and I gotta say, I find it to be very well balanced. It's excelling up close, not in time to kill, but in how easy it is to use, and the time to kill is still good up close, even though it's not better than the broadside. Like I said, the real appeal about this gun is how easy it is to use, and of course, just the fun different ways you can kit it out. I mean, there's so many fun ways you can use it, and I'll have a video on slugs, of course, later on that seems to be really good, but for the different fire modes it has, this is a lot of fun to use. And like I said, I really don't think it's overpowered. A lot of people are always so mad when something works its way into the meta that isn't an SMG or an AR. They just kind of shut their brain off when a shotgun is introduced, and honestly, this is easy to use, and it's only going to be annoying. I don't really think it's going to be a major problem, at least with its base ammo types. Maybe slugs is a different issue, but at least to me, I think it's fairly well balanced. Up close, it's excelling. Outside of that like initial max damage range, it's just going to take too many shots. And remember, this thing has 15 shells. It takes 5 at least to kill a fully armored player. So in trios and quads, this may not be the best shotgun to use, even though you'd think it would be. Of course, the reload isn't that bad, but just know that this is probably better suited for solos and duos and maybe trios. You can get away with it in all game modes, but trust me, you'll run out of ammo pretty quick and you'll be reloading way more often than you might think. And that is just about going to do it for this video, guys. Sorry if it was a little too long or if I rambled too much or too many numbers or all that stuff, but I wanted to kind of give out the objective facts about the gun so people aren't just screaming that something's overpowered without actually knowing what it does or how it works, because that seems to be the common problem here. And especially on Twitter, you'll have people that just post a clip of it in the gunsmith and shooting in the firing range, and they'll just shoot and it's really fast and they're like, oh my god, it's so broken. They're not showing anyone being killed by it. They're not showing any numbers or actual values of why it's so overpowered. They just say it shoots fast, shotgun go burr, it's overpowered. It's ridiculous. So I wanted to point out the facts here so you guys can make your own assumptions as to whether or not you think it's overpowered or not. But anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying goodbye. So let me know down below in the comments, what do you think about this shotgun? What's your favorite way to run it? Are you looking forward to the slug video I'm going to make soon? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.
Fire sales done. Prices are back to normal.